Trading meme coins has never been easier. Using the relative strength index indicator in today's video, I'll be showing you my really profitable trading strategy that I use using the relative strength index. You can use it in multiple different ways to actually be swing trading in an uptrend, to be able to pick where the short-term trend is going to be turning. And then we can also find where the overall trend is changing when we're swapping from a bearish trend to a bullish trend. I'll be showing you some really in-depth strategies today to use in the RSI for meme coins. So let me jump straight into this video today. I'll be going over a coin that I've been trading very recently, known as Labubu. And here, let me now demonstrate why the relative strength index is extremely useful. Now that I've moved my camera out the way, let me explain exactly how to use the relative strength index. So we see two dotted lines. Initially, we see one at the 70 zone. So the RSI actually goes from 100 all the way down to 0. And then in between there, we have two dotted lines actually showing 30 and then 70. So what it actually means is when the RSI line goes above this dotted line, goes above 70 and gets close to the 100 number, this region is known as an overbought area because there's a lot of buying strength coming into the market. And what the RSI able to signal to you is when that buying pressure is declining and could then be signaling to take a downtrend in the market, so easily take a swing trade, or to quickly get out of your trade to then look for another long trade at a cheaper price. So most importantly, we see the RSI line going to this overbought region, and we'll also see the RSI line, if we move across, go to the oversold region like we can see here. So when we go below the 30 line, that's known as oversold. And from that region, it's very likely for price then to continue up to the upside because this region is oversold and is a region that could have a significant bounce. But that's just a very basic understanding of the relative strength index. The most important factor that we use with the RSI can actually be seen right here. It's known as an RSI divergence, and it's quite a high probability strategy, as I explained to you, to find when the trend is changing in the market. So we do initially see the first time when price on this longer term chart came into above this 70 region, came into overbought, it then perfectly lines up with this correlation in price. So we had a really strong up peak in price. We actually went from 600,000 market cap all the way up to nearly 10 million. So we had over nearly a 15x in price. So we had a really strong push also on this relative strength index. But most importantly, we can now come over and see the next zone where we then made a bit of a downturn and pushed back up into this relative strength index above 70 zone was now when price reached up around this $20 million market cap. What we really need to take into account is actually zooming in here on the relative strength index to see how this price actually formed. Did it form a higher high in the RSI? Or did it form a higher low? So this is a very important piece of information right here, where you can see price made a high in the overall chart. It made a high on the RSI. Next, we saw price made a higher high on the chart, but the relative strength index actually shows a lower high right here. What does that signal? Because we weren't able to break above the relative strength of this last push, although we made a major increase in price. So what the RSI is showing is that overall, as much as price is increasing, the underlying strength of the people who are buying this particular token is decreasing. And that's where we see the divergent strategy, because price is actually making higher highs, but RSI is diverging and making lower highs, giving us the signal, okay, this $15 to $20 million market cap zone for Labubu is a perfect sell zone. And we can then look to accumulate back at this supportive structure, or even if we were to add the exponential moving average to the chart, the 20 EMA, we could look to buy back once price actually finally bounces up above the exponential moving average, because now this transitions into the next move for Labubu, because we now see price beginning again. We were down at this $300,000 market cap before we're now exploded, made a huge price increase to around that 70 million. But let's actually look how price and the RSI actually reacted. So here we finally see we made a really strong increase in the price in this high, and we also make a strong push overall on the relative strength of the RSI. Now we look at the next high push and take note at how this exponential moving average is used as a wave support to the upside. In many previous videos, I show that this overall average price, when it has a positive slope to the upside, that's when we only look for longs. And it's very common to get big spikes above the EMA, and then price comes back, has a strong reaction, continues to the upside, comes back, supports, continues to the upside. And you can see throughout this bull trend, it was very common for price to continue and bounce off this region. Now, going back to the RSI, we can see that although price made a higher high in price, it made a lower high in the relative strength of the RSI. So it's telling us that as much as price is increasing and making higher highs, the underlying strength of this token is decreasing. And as I mentioned, it's a perfect opportunity to look for a short-term sale, because then we can look for entries back at the average price. And we're saving huge on our position, because we'll actually be exiting at around this 15 million market cap, buying back in at around this 7 million market cap, and we save in over 50% on our position. Then we can see again, we have another major reaction. We make another higher high push in price, but look, we make another lower high push in the relative strength, and there's another opportunity to get out of our short-term position and even look for a re-entry close to the average price here. We didn't come back to the EMA exactly. We're a little bit away, but again, we had the opportunity to sell it around the 30 million and then get back in at around the 20 million, saving close to 30% on our position. So you can see how it's quite effective to use this relative strength index indicator in conjunction with the EMA overall to help you for some short-term trading opportunities. So here we see the entire move for Labubu. We made continuous 5 major higher highs, 3, 4, and 5 right here. And we see in the relative strength index, every single time we made a higher high in price, we made a lower high in the RSI, giving us clear signals multiple times, actually 5 times for short-term trading. And even here, we had the opportunity to get back in close to this exponential moving average. You can see how the RSI can be extremely useful, even in meme coin trading, because a lot of these meme coins are not able to short, but it's giving you a signal to get out, look back, wait for a short-term decline, and get in at a better long-term average price. So here I've shown you how we can use the RSI to be finding short-term selling opportunities in a bull trend. But there's also many opportunities, like in WIF right here. We're looking to see when the overall bull trend is going to begin. Rather in Labubu, we were using it for the opportunity to see when the bull trend was ending. But here we want to be finding when the bull trend is going to be beginning again, because we've recently dumped around 400 million, but then pumped to 1.4 billion, showing that there's a lot of volume. There's a lot of people now looking back into WIF, but we want to find out, has this long-term trend finally ended? And do we now have a high probability, or at least a higher probability, to begin trending up? Because we now see price beginning to make short-term higher highs, while also making these higher lows. We can see in the RSI, we have two major points of interest, because these 2 points right here were the only times that the RSI came into this 30 zone. And we can see we had one major low here after this high, and then we had another major low. We did have this low here, but that wasn't correlated to another major low below 30 in the RSI. We can see it does line up right here. And if we were to zoom in perfectly, we can see that the RSI made a higher low right here, although price made a lower low. Again, signaling that as much as price is going down, that there's an increased amount of buyers at this lower level, potentially showing that's the exact zone we want to be looking for some entries. So we have an RSI divergence here, even on WIF, to show, okay, now could be the time. The long-term trend is shifting. The RSI is now giving us the signal. We can now begin to set up a trade, even going down and using the shorter term average price, the shorter term relative strength index, and seeing how price is reacting at this current price in terms of RSI. So it's very, very useful for meme coins, because you're able to use it to find the downtrend, to find the beginning of the uptrend. Many, many useful applications. If you have enjoyed today's video on how to use the relative strength index for meme coin trading, make sure to smash the like and subscribe, because I'll see you in the next one.